I asked AI to tell me who it thought were the top 10 most powerful Italian-American mafia bosses in history. Let's check it out. I'm James Gladwish and welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Artificial intelligence searches the internet to provide the results of a question asked. The problem with this is that AI uses sources such as Wikipedia that are often littered with erroneous information. Regardless, let's see who AI believes were the top 10 most powerful Italian-American mafia bosses in US history. In 10th place, AI listed Gambino crime family boss Paul Castellano. Castellano was famously murdered in a brazen mob hit outside Sparks Steakhouse in 1985. A murder organised by his successor John Gotti and several others. History hasn't been kind to Castellano's legacy, with many stating that he should never have been boss, and that Carlo Gambino, Castellano's brother-in-law and cousin, should have chosen Neil Dellacroce as his successor in 1976. However, it can be argued that Paul Castellano was a steady pair of hands who had a head for business and could oversee the white-collar crimes that brought in millions of dollars for the Gambino crime family. In fact, as far back as the late 1960s, Carlo Gambino had Paul Castellano serving as his acting boss, while Gambino fought deportation and suffered heart problems. Ultimately, some believe that Paul Castellano eventually alienated himself from many of the men beneath him, and this caused his downfall. However, this is a very simplistic view of a more complex situation. For many years, Castellano was in fact a powerful mafia boss, running a large and wealthy crime family. But would you have him in 10th place? In 9th place, AI listed Giuseppe Joe the Boss Masseria. In the 1920s, Joe the Boss emerged as the leader of the largest crime family in New York City. While many crime families had a strict Sicilian-only policy at the time, Joe Masseria welcomed mobsters with various heritages from all over Italy. By 1928, Masseria was elected boss of bosses of the mafia in America, essentially confirming his status as the most powerful mobster in the country. In fact, Joe the Boss even had Al Capone working for him as a Chicago-based captain in Masseria's New York-based crime family, as I've covered in a previous video. I spoke with historian Alex Hortis, author of the excellent book The Mob and the City, and there is a case that Masseria could well be considered one of the most powerful mob bosses of all time, and should be higher up this list. Alex Hortis told me. So going back to a point that you touched on earlier, considering the mobsters that came up under Masseria to a certain extent, Luciano, Genovese, like Frankie Yale, Joe Adonis, Frank Costello, just to name a few, and the fact that he didn't make his membership exclusive to just Sicilians and he didn't care which region you were from, I mean, there is an argument to say that, as you said earlier, he was one who did more to modernize the American Mafia in that respect, which is something that's obviously attributed to Luciano.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty easy case. I think he is really the founder of the modern American Mafia, because of all the innovations that he did. He recruited, non-Sicilians, recruited from people outside his village. He did not have a mafia pedigree. He recruited people across the country to join these conspiracy alliances. He diversified. Let's not forget that. He also diversified tremendously. His family had every racket conceivable with it. And look, you just got to listen to the people at the time. Although he didn't get the press attention Al Capone, and that's why we don't know about him. The cops said he was the biggest family by far in New York. and in all likelihood, the nation. And he was the boss of bosses, and he did this all with zero mafia heritage that we're aware of, and really with no family connections and no natural advantages other than his own kind of gumption, skill, deal making. I think he was the founder of the American Mafia for all practical purposes. Not Luciano, not anyone else, not even Giuseppe Morello, his consigliere, who actually didn't do well with people who weren't, that he didn't know. That's Joe Masseria, the founder of the American Mafia.
So obviously we look towards the start of the in Castelmarese War. I mean, taking into account of the size of Masseria's family, he also had these kind of alliances of people kind of reporting into him. Obviously, we know that obviously the Mineo family, as we call it, after Salvatore d'Aquila died, they were in alliance. After Tommy Reina was killed, and he had Pinzolo, that was an alliance as well. And obviously then he had Chicago as well, coming into them. I mean, it could be argued that has another boss since had such power in terms of being a gangster, not the political connections, but in terms of like the size of a family and all of these other kind of families kind of really owing allegiance to him.
Well, I mean, I welcome your viewers, but I cannot think of one that had the scope of so many outgrowth of families, like you mentioned, and also the territories: Bronx, Harlem, South Brooklyn, Lower Manhattan, and then the alliances across the country with Detroit, Chicago. I can't think of anyone else that had that big and that complex of an alliance or his own family that we've seen since. I think it's argued. I think it's a very strong argument that he had perhaps the largest, most sophisticated family with the furthest reach that we've ever seen.
Ultimately, Joe Masseria's involvement in a bloody gang war with rival boss Salvatore Maranzano contributed to his downfall. And Masseria's ambitious underlings, including Charlie Luciano, orchestrated the murder of the man known as Joe the Boss in 1931. In 8th place, AI listed Genovese crime family boss Vincent Gigante. Depending on the source that you read, Vincent Gigante ran his crime family from around 1981 until he died in prison in 2005. For many years, Vincent Gigante avoided conviction by feigning mental illness. He also used front bosses to try and hide the fact that he was the true power in the family. The Genovese family is notoriously secretive, which helped add to their power and dominance. And although the position of boss of bosses had been abolished back in 1931, it could be argued that while Gigante was on the street, he was the most powerful mob boss in New York City. Do you believe that Vincent Gigante should be at number 8, or higher, or even lower? At number 7, AI has Chicago outfit boss Tony Accardo. Anthony Joe Batters Accardo came up under Al Capone during the days of Prohibition. By the time Accardo became the boss of the outfit in 1947, taking over from his friend Paul Ricca, the Chicago organization could be considered one of the most powerful criminal groups in the country. Accardo would step down as boss in around 1957. He would enter into semi-retirement alongside former boss Paul Ricca, although sources indicate that both Accardo and Ricca still ultimately pulled the strings on major issues for the organization. The Chicago outfit dominated mafia activity from the Midwest through to the West Coast, with many other mafia families in other cities, ultimately under their guidance. And Anthony Accardo managed to avoid incarceration throughout his career. Some may argue that Tony Accardo should very well be a lot higher up this AI list. What do you think? At number 6, AI lists Chicago outfit boss Sam Giancana. Giancana took over as boss of the Chicago organization in around 1957. As previously mentioned, Many sources state that the ultimate power in the outfit lay with semi-retired former bosses Anthony Accardo and Paul Ricca. But this shouldn't detract from the fact that Sam Mooney Giancana was a powerful boss in his own right. FBI files even indicate that in the early 1960s, the New York-based Genovese family reached out to Giancana for advice on several occasions. Also, let's not forget that under Giancana's leadership, there are the rumors that the Chicago outfit were allegedly instrumental in getting John F. Kennedy elected president. The fearsome Sam Giancana fell out of favor with his retired mob superiors, Accardo and Ricca, and while in the middle of legal issues around a grand jury summoning, Giancana fled to Mexico and was replaced as boss of the Chicago outfit. He returned to the United States in 1974 after being deported by the Mexican authorities. Sam Giancana was later murdered by his mob colleagues in 1975. Is Sam Giancana's name on this AI list surprising? Let me know. So, we are up to the top 5 most powerful Italian-American mafia bosses as listed by AI. And, in your opinion, up to this point, have there been any glaring admissions? Perhaps New Orleans boss Carlos Marcello or Tampa boss Santo Trafficante Jr. Perhaps they will feature in the top 5. Although at this point, it appears that AI seems to list the more famous mobsters. Look out for the next video where we continue a review of this list of powerful mob bosses as generated by AI, and we will see which mobsters feature in the top 5. For the moment, in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on the topic covered in this video. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.